Good evening. We're up to Daf Yud. We're beginning on Daf Yud Gimel on the days, a few lines up. Now we were discussing until now the halachas of when you could do business with the guy, or when you can't do business with the guy. But we didn't discuss what you can't do. Now we're going to discuss things that is us a period. There's what we discussed today is you period. You cannot go ahead and ever sell this to a guy. In other words, nothing to do with the Yom Eid, 3 days before the Eid. These are things you can't sell to the guy. Most of the things we don't know what they are, but we'll translate them the best we can. Again, a klap on sim. These are the things that's usher to sell to a guy because he's going to use it for Avodah Zorah. It's tarublin, whatever that is. We'll see in the Gemara. Beno shuach is a white fig. Upetutoris. Now, stamazai, you would think pututoris is a third thing. The Gemara is going to say, guys, it's bitutoris. You can't sell you can't sell to them. It's tarublim and benu shuach when they have their stems. In other words, it's not two things. It's descriptive of the previous two. Why? Look at Rashi. Okay. Anyway, basically, Rashi says somewhere that they're going to hang it. They're going to hang it. So in other words, if it doesn't have a stem, you can't hang it. If it doesn't have a stem, you can't hang it. So you can have a stem, you're going to hang it. So therefore, for Tarnagal Lavina and a white Lavina is self-explanatory. But Tarnagal Lavina and a white rooster. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Mut Lim Chaloi Tarnagal Lavin, Bena Tarnagolim. In other words, if you're selling a bunch of chickens and among them is a Tarnagal Lavin, then you could sell it. Mashma to Tanakama, even among a bunch of chickens, you could not sell. You cannot sell a Tarnagal Lavin, even if it's a munch among a bunch of chickens. And when it's alone, if you cut off its toe, you can sell it to them. That mechusar aver they would not bring. So therefore, if in a situation, I guess the Gemara will discuss it where made a problem with Sav Alechem, I don't know, but where you cut off its toe, then it'd be okay to sell the white chicken. Ushakol levorim and all other things, stoma, muta, perushin asa. Rashi says on both Mefarish B'Gemara, and the last in and Reb Meir Omer af dekel tov b'chatzav v'niklas. Let's be goris niklas with a samach. Asa limchal every kechavim. The Gemara Mefarish. Okay, everything will become self-explanatory in the Gemara. Right now, we're going to identify a few things. We're going to identify a few things. Now, just to make things, it's the Rublin. There seems to be Machloikas and Rashi in Shabbos and Machloikas Rashi over here. Rashi over here seems to say it's an erez. It's some type of cedar tree. And it seems that the fruit of a tree, a cedar tree is an acorn. And the fruit of a pine tree, the other opinion it's a pine tree, then if it could be a pine cone. So again, whatever it's the Reuben is, the Kluke Deus, it's either a pine tree or an eresh tree. Either way, my Yitzta Rublin is Tunisa. Rashi says, Min Eretz vi Shata. It's the one that's called Shata, K'nam Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah they give 10 arazim. Uriminu Alesu Estira, right? Haisifu Alehem, Le'inyan Shmita. They added on these things that are asa to do business with in the Shmita. Yelachav like the Skyra. Ilechsin, Beitzta Rublin, Muchsasin, all different types of things. Ubenoy Shuach. The probably types of things that definitely grow. It's the Rublin Tarnisa. If you're going to say it's the Rublin is Tarnisa, Tunisa mi is b'shvius. Is the din of Tunisa noig in the Shemitah year on the it's the Rublin. Vatanya zeh klal kol sheyesh le ikar yesh le shvius v'kol she'en le ikar ein le shvius. So it's mashma the Tunisa does not have an ikar. It does not have a root, and we'll have to see what that means in a second. The bottom line is, if you're teaching Tunisa as an erez, it's problematic, right? It's problematic because there should not be a Shemitah. Taisus doesn't know why. It has a root. The Taisus has a problem with that. Anyway, so because of this question, we're going to change. Ella Omer of Safra, it doesn't mean Tunisa, it means Peri da Arza. It means the fruit of the Arza. Again, it's either an acorn or a pine corn. The Chen Kiyasa Ravin, they used to feed it to animals, these things. What do you use it for? It's not edible. They used to go ahead and feed it to to animals. So it's Kiyas Rav and Amar Abelazar pre the Arz. He agreed it was peri the Arz. Okay, so now it's the Rublin. We're going to tie his peri the Arz. He's an acorn or a pine. Just to understand it a little better, to Machlekes. Let's see Rashi and Tosos here. It says Rashi, Kol she'en le'ikar, l'skayim ba'aretz b'yemos hageshamim. It can't make it through the winter. Kigoin kishuin v'diluin chayotz behen. They don't have a din of shmita, so they don't have a din of shmita, right? But ein le'shvias umutar lasses ben schayr. You can do business with them. Ve'enu mitzuv l'afkir nafni mafka them. So it seems whatever Tunisa is, Tunisa would what? Would the way Rashi explained Erez, it would not be part of that bill. Says Tosus, I have a problem with that. Tunisa Pirsha Kunchus min Erez, Kamin Rosh Hashanah, Gasor mini Arazim, Shatar Tunisa. So it's one of the Arazim. Bekasha. The Besamech Parich Meahi, the Chol Shein Le'ika, Upirshan Kuntrish, Shein Le'ika Miskayim, Beretz Biyamos, Hagshamim. It doesn't last through the winter. The Tunisa Eretzu, Hayesh Le'ika Miskayim, and Erez makes it through the winter, guys. Like, well, so in other words, the way Rashi explained it, based upon the Gemara, is doch schwer. Because it says, you know what? The Tunisa makes it through the winter. Why? Because you're saying that what? There's a din of Shemitah in it. But 1 second. The way you explained the way the Gemara, the way you explained it, and the Gemara explains it, Rashi doesn't make any sense. Void kasha, yes, another kasha. So therefore, let's go down to Tosfos with the kaf pirish ben tam, the trey gavni Tunisa. There's two types. Who min adama kein kabrisa. The one over here is like a kabrisa, meaning it goes from the ground, and I feel pirish gapris shein lo ikar shoirish bekarka. Lo bi vasacham lo yisig shamim. Therefore, what? There's no din of what there's no din of shmita. Aval tvua yesh lo ikar. Tvua does. So again, the gam Rashi pirisham the hacha kein kabrisa. So again, in order to answer the problem, when Rashi says it's the Terubla over here, Tanisa, right? And he has the stira from what that they were moisiv, it's the Rublin, Tunisa is some type of something on the ground. Tunisa is something on the ground. It's not an eres. It's some type of vegetable, which no vegetable renews itself, right? You have to go ahead and replant it because it doesn't have avanika. So that's what Tunisa was initially. We're answering that what it's the fruit of the erish tree. It's the fruit of the erish tree, and again, chalukei deis exactly what that is.
You know, on vegetables.
What?
You know, on vegetables.
Shmita, what Shmita? In the Shmita year? I don't know. You know, it's a small, you know. To do business with it, I don't know. Just look at Tosfos for a second. The second Tosfos in the bottom. Peri de Aza, Perisha Kuntris, Gilunin, Fumaychel Chazerim. It's Gilunim, and they would feed it to hogs. Rashbam b'shem Rashi Perish, and his grandson Rashbam explains, Peros Elon Shekorin pine. It's the peris of a tree that they call pine, which would be what, and it would be pine cones. The Yeshboy Garinin, and they have pine seeds, right? They have seeds. They in a royal achila, yes. Not by human being, but you know, the question is you could do shmita with it. It's the seeds could be eaten, right? The seeds could be eaten, right? The seeds, the seeds, and animals eat that. Man, you don't have to eat it. Animals eat that stuff. Okay, that's the Gemara Vaita. Benos Shuach, Amar Rabbi Rav Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, is Teini Chivrasa. They're white figs. The big Tosfos over here. L'chayre, they're chashiv, not chashiv. Uptu Tarais, Amar Rabbi Rav Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Don't read it as a third thing, upitu tarais. Read it as bipitu tarais. In their what? In their stems, shanu. Let's see Rashi, guys. Bitu tarais shanu. Bitu tarais masnisan lav minhu. It's not a third min, guys. The way you read it what? You read it as it's the Rublin and it's the Rublin b'nai Shuach and the upitu tarais. No, that's not the way you read it. Lav minhu ba'apei nafshei. Alachi kamar. It's the Rublin ubnei Shuach bi'uktsehem in their stem. The fishet toil and I say this is what I was looking for. The fishet toil and I say bifnei avodas kechavim. They go ahead what and they tie them up to the tree. V'darken la'oivdam bekach, and that was the way they served him. Everything, nothing new. Tachlis, nothing. They stole everything from the pagans. Notice they sold everything to the pagans. They would tie it. They would tie it up. Therefore, they would tile it. So therefore, there's the same thing over here. they would tile it. So uputitoris means what? The previous two, the Rublin and the Beno Shuach in their stems. Amar Rab Rav Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. Levaina, what's Levaina that you can't sell to them? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Levaina Zaka. Pure Levaina, frankincense, but that obviously is something that would you would burn to an Avodah Zarah. Tano we learned, Mikul and Moichin Lehem Chavila. Right, you're able to sell all these things. It's Tarublim, B'nai Shuach, and Levaina. You're able to go ahead and sell it, right? The Chavila in bunches, a whole bunch. Uvakama Chavila, Pirish of Yehudim and Beseira. It's at least what 3 manim. So in other words, if they're buying such a large amount, it's not for Avodah Zarah. They're buying it as what as a wholesaler. He's buying it to sell. Why aren't you worried that he's going to go ahead, you buy it from you, and go ahead and sell it to somebody else? So Mabaya alifnei mipaktinon. On your lifnei evil site michshal what we are makbid. You're not commanded on what lifnei de lifnei. Now what's the issue of selling these things, guys? Lifnei evil site michshal. You're selling things that is used for Avodah Zarah. You're selling to them; they're going to use it for Avodah Zarah. So therefore, it's asa. It's asa.
Today would be the same thing.
Okay, the question about today, why is Avodah Zarah? Again, we discussed. The question today is what's Avodah Zarah? It's again, there's huge rage about Christianity. There's this huge rage about Christianity. So this Ramah in Archaim, it's Kufnun Vav. I looked at it today. Who seems to say that Shituf, in other words, the Goyim in his time, in the time of the Ramah, he lived in Krakow in the 16th century, in the 1500s, and he said that there's no Shituf because they serve them and they serve the Rabban Shalom. They serve them and the Rabban Shalom. Now the source for that Ramah is the Tosfos, and I think we even saw it in Samet Gimel in Sanhedrin, and this big raid what Tosfos meant. That Tosfos is discussing becoming partnership with the guy. Partnership with the guy, right? So in other words, what's the problem of being partnership with a guy? Maybe you'll have a vikuach with him, discussion, and he'll end up going swearing. You'll cause he should swear to his God. And Tosfos seems to say that you're swearing b'shituf is not a problem. So the question is it a din only in swearing? In other words, you won't be over on that you caused the name to be sworn, or that there is no shituf by a guy. That seems to be that then shituf is shufis. Shufis, shituf. In other words, we don't say that. We say the Trinity. I mean, maybe in the PA you used to talk that way, but when you speak with Fitzgerald and somebody else, and
In some songs.
or the dating music died, Harold. Anyway, so either way, either okay. Anyway, so that is the conversation. That is the conversation. But it seems to be again most of many later Achronim, they argue vehemently on the Ramah, and they said that it was only in being masked the shame of b'shutfis, there's no issa. In other words, if I cause a guy to go ahead and be masked the shame, it's also for me that he's going to go thank his God. If he's going to thank the father and somebody else, right? Good. Then it's not a problem. But einachinami, the avoid itself is a problem. So according to that, it is a problem. So, but when you sell it, bisman hazeh, is
something else
with Arabs though.
Arabs serve one God. Arabs serve Allah. They don't believe they serve one God. That's the problem.
Not all Christians.
Not all. But
I wouldn't believe in Trinity, but
there's some.
Catholics.
So what do they? What do they believe in? They don't believe in Yeshu, the Protestants.
They do,
But that's shituf. No, it's once they believe in the shituf is once you don't need all three. You don't need the Trinity. All you need is two.
How to fall from that?
There's no way around
Okay, so again, you have to see the halachas over here. But you're not, nothing you're going to sell is Avrami, selling, gypsum and more. They're not building churches, and if they do, it's not a problem, right? Nails.
Finger the nail.
Goldberg's nails. That was a funny joke. That was a funny joke. Okay. Now the Gemara gets a little more difficult. Tarnagol Lavan. Seems they would serve a white chicken. In other words, they wouldn't serve it. They would be makriv of the white chicken to what? The Avodah Zarah. They'd be makriv of the white chicken to the Avodah Zarah. Rab Yoina, Rab Zera, Rab Zvid. The Iked Masnila, Rab Yoina, Rab Zera, or not Rab Zvid, but name Rab Zera. Tarnagol Lemi. If a guy is going around, who has tickets, right? Who has a chicken? Who has a chicken? Mutta limchaloi tarnagol. You would be permitted to go ahead and sell him a tarnagol. Again, he was asking for a chicken. He wasn't asking for a specific chicken. So you'll be able to sell him a tarnagol. However, if he's announcing tarnagol lemi, then asa limchaloi tarnagol. Then it'll be asa to limcha. So that's Reb Zera's chiddush. That if he goes ahead and he says tarnagol stam, I want a chicken, and he doesn't say what, you know what? In that case, what? It's going to be, okay, Tanan. Rav Yehuda Omer. Rav Yehuda Omer, Moichel hu loy tarnagol lavain, beina tarnagolim. Rav Yehuda in the Mishnah said, you could sell a white chicken amongst black chickens and red chickens and green chickens, whatever. Now, hey, he done. Elamid the kamar tarnagol lavin lemi, tarnagol lavin lemi. In other words, let's say the Jew says, guy wants a white chicken, right? So he says to him following, he says, listen, I got 10 chickens over here. Take him or leave him. Would you say that if you sell this guy, you have to worry about Avodah Zarah? Absolutely. He asked for the white chicken. Right. So if he's asking for the white chicken, obviously he wants Avodah Zarah. You as a businessman, you want to get rid of the whole whatever, the whole bag of chickens, or whatever, the box of chickens, right? So the Jew says, so now that can't be the case. So in other words, if he's saying tarnagol lavin lemi, that can't be the case where Rabbi Yehuda would say that what you could sell it. Elalav, it must be the kamar tarnagol lemi. Va'afilu hachi Rabbi Yehuda ben tarnagolim in bifnei atzmai loy. In other words, it must be it's a diak, guys, a stark diak. It can't be speaking that he said, I'm looking for a white chicken, because everyone would agree over here that Rabbi Yehuda would say it's usher. So it must be that he said what? It must be that he said, I want a chicken. So Rabbi Yehuda, if he says he wants a chicken, you could sell him a white chicken among others. But alone, you couldn't. So it's a kasha. You, Rabbi Zera, wanted to say that the guy asked for a chicken stam, you could sell it to him. You see from the inference, in the case of Rabbi Yehuda, you can't sell it to him. Right? You hear the inference. You can't. In Tanakama, even more extreme, you can't. So that's the kasha on him. Okay, nacham all the kasha, guys. Nacham all the kasha. One more time. Rabbi Zera said the following case, this chiddush. If a guy is announcing who has a chicken, you could sell him a white chicken. Fred the Gemara. Says Rabbi Yehuda, if the white chicken is amongst other chickens, you could sell it to him. If it's not among other chickens, you can't sell it to him. Now, what's it talking about? If the guy was asking for a white chicken, even Rabbi Yehuda would be moida among other chickens. It's no good. So it must be speaking what? It must be speaking where he said chicken stam. And the reason Rabbi Yehuda permitted it, of course, the white chicken was among other chickens. But if on the other hand, it was alone, even though the guy only said what? Stam a chicken, it would be asa. Kasha on Zera. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak Chacham Mayaskina, what are we dealing with over here? The Oymar Zeh v'Zeh. He said this one and this one. All right, guys, you have to see Rashi. This one and this one. Masnisan del Rabbi Yehuda b'fnei atzmai loy u'tanakama legamri asa. A Mishnah where Rabbi Yehuda says you can go ahead and sell a white chicken among chickens, and Rikama says it's still asa. He going. The meikara atga lovin shacha v'adon. The guy said, who has a white chicken, a red chicken, a black chicken? Hilkach lovin l'Rab Meir b'fnei atzmai asa. Even the meikara atger, since he mentioned white chicken first, it's asa. V'hashta shaka lovin v'azalei. Meikarinami chavim l'lavan. And now he took the white chicken alone and went. That's what he wanted. V'hai the atzka shaka. Why did he mention black? Arumi arim. He's going ahead. Why? And he's tricking the Jew. The other who the Isha Lovin Lachan Leizavin, La Yisrael, he knows that he has for a white chicken alone, the Jew's not going to sell it to him. Ubena Tanagoyla Mutta. Why? The Migu the Shacha Lav Labayis Kechavim, Lava Nami Lav Labayis Kechavim. Rabbanon who say it's Asar, I feel Ubena Tanagoyim Nami Asar, Hail the Katava Lavan, since he was Tabea Lavan. Umiu Tanagol Stam, Bain Rav Yehuda, Bain Rabbanon, Mutta Limchoy, Tanagol Lavan, Kereb Zera. In other words, this case, we're changing around. It's speaking where he asked for a white chicken. But not only did he ask for a white chicken, he asked for both. Zev is Zeh, guys. What did he ask for? He asked for white and he asked for black. He asked for white and he asked for red. Now, if you only sell him a white, even if Yehuda will be Moida. Why? Because the first one he mentioned was a white. What if he takes white and black and everything? Says Rabbi Yehuda, Zev is Zeh. Okay. Says the Chachamim, since he mentioned white first, despite the fact that it's among other, okay. But it's speaking where he mentioned what? White chicken. Not a kasha on Reb Zera who said chicken stam. That was the kasha. Reb Zera said chicken stam. We're not speaking about stam chicken. We're speaking about white chicken. Okay, anyway. Tanya Nami Hachi. We have a brisa as such. Tanya Nami Hachi. Reb Yehuda, Emasai, Bisman Shamar Tanagol Zel Lavan. If he says this Tanagol white, some people take out the word Zeh. Avol Mama Zeh Zeh Mutta. Vafilu Amar Tanagol Avikachab Zeh Avikachab Shasa Mishtel Lebenoi Ashahaya Lachoyle B'Teich Beisai. If he asks for a white chicken and you know that he has a chayil in his house or he's going to make a party, then you could sell it to him. In other words, this that he can't sell a white chicken is stam. But if you know there's a sibud for the white chicken, then you could. Fighting more on that, but Tnan, right? Earlier, so it would be asa. Rashi bitavzig. High mish 4 lines in the bottom. High mish in the katani mutal limchaloi tarnago lavon. Lav mish the chupis benoy. It's not speaking about a party that he's going to thank his God for the marriage. The vadil takruvas of this kechavim kaboili. He needs to for avodah Zorah. El b'mishnah shel mareyus. It's a mission of friendship. Sha'osin lanorim zem zeh. They make a party. They make a party. The kairin kampurusha. It's not a chashav enough party that they're going to take this chicken and bring it for avodah Zorah. So therefore, that white chicken for this party, as long as you know, is the party is a social event, will be permitted. Good. Tanan. Now we're going to ask another kasha on Reb Zera. Again, what does Reb Zera say? Chicken stam, right? Only chicken lavan. That's also chicken stam. Then you could sell a white chicken. What?
It mixed, right? Oh no. Anyway.
No.
Anyway.
Tanan. B'shar kol ha'devarim stama muta upirushin asa. Okay, we said in the Mishnah, we're going to explain, right? What does that mean? My stama, my perushan. Ilema stama the amar chiti chevrasa, right? He said, I'm going to sell, I want white. The guy says, I want white wheat. Perushan the amar rabbi this kechavim. He goes, I want white wheat for my avodah Zorah. Lois stama tzrich lemeimar. You don't need to tell me stam, guys. Why would you think white wheat is asa? So if he says white wheat, do you need to tell me stam is muta? No, it's obvious. For loy and loy stam at tzrich lemeimar the mizavnina that you could sell it to him, right? Since they don't use wheat. For loy pirushan tzrich lemeimar the loy mizavnina. And the pirish, if the guy says openly, I'm selling you avodah Zorah, you don't need to tell me that what? Then you can't sell it to him. So in other words, that can't be the case in our Mishnah where you said Pirushan is Aser and Stam is Mutta. Elastama de Kamar Chiti. He said what? Wheat. Pirushan de Kamar Chavrasa. That's wheat. Michal de Tarnagal Afilu Stam and Amiloi. In other words, Chita would be Mutta because Stam is like Chita is not used. If you explain white's associated with avodah Zorah, then yes. So when it's chita that is stam not used, then you could sell it. But a chicken which could be used, afilu stama, you should not be able to sell it. Kashan of zera, right? Kashan of zera, you shouldn't be able to sell it. So ami lo'olam stama kama chita chavrasa. Stama is white wheat because you never use wheat. And pirushin the kamar labayis kechavim. In other words, like we initially thought. Now, what was the kasha? What kasha was, you don't need to tell me you could sell wheat, and you don't need to tell me that if you said avodah Zorah, you can't. And the chiddush is, guys, that even if the guy said for Avodah Zarah, you might be able to sell it to him. The chiddush is you don't. You know what this guy thinks? This guy thinks that he serves the Avodah Zarah, so it must be that you also do. And just like what, I'll do it and I would give a good price. You'll give a good price also. So Stam, you might think it's a business tactic and you could sell. Kamash Mulan, no. It's the play. Hi Gavra, lav lav kaboy. He doesn't need the chicken for Avodah Zarah. Right? Ella mivaku the avik by Avodah Kechavim. He's attached to the Avodah Zarah. I said chicken means the wheat. Ella, he's attached to his Avodah Kechavim. Meaning himself is so attached to Avodah Zarah.
Right.
That's the way people are. People think that, for example, if you're a Yankee fan, people think the whole world are Yankee fans. Yeah, it was very appropriate in Masechta Avodah Zarah, as the Yankee fan next to me just said. Maybe what I'll say for Avodah Zarah, he'll give it to me, right? Kamash Malan, that what? No, he means it for the Avodah Zarah. Boy Ravashi, Tarnagal love and Ketua Lemi. The guy's announcing who has a chicken that's missing a toe. Mahu. Limchaloi Tarnagal love and Shalem. Could you sell him a Tarnagal that is whole? Could you sell him a Tarnagal that's whole? Mi amina midakamar Ketua lav lavayis kechavim kaboy. He doesn't need a Avodah Zarah because they're not going to be makar mechusa aver, something missing a limb. By Dilma Rumi Kamarim, maybe what he's going ahead what and he's making a trick. What's the trick, Rashi? The other who shein ketua matzli, he knows that people don't have what missing toe chickens. The yimchalei shalem, they'll sell him a shalem. Libam. He wanted to go ahead and take it out of the minds of the Jew. In other words, guys, why is he being Tavei Ketua? I'll settle for a shalem. He's saying Ketua because, he wants a Ketua, means of course he's not going to bring it. So I'll sell him a shalem. But really what? Okay, so that's the side of the Shiloh over here. Could you sell him a shalem or not? Do we say what? That since he's asking for Ketua, it's not for Avodah Zarah, or Dilma perhaps Rumi Kama Aramli. Imtim Saloima, Haya Rumi Huda Kama Aram. Right? That's if you say over there he's tricking, and therefore it's asa. Tanago love and lami, Tanago love and lami. The Yavle Shachar, he's asking for a white chicken, and you give him a black chicken. The Yavle Edaim B'Shakal, you give him a black when he takes it, you give him a red when he takes it. Ma'ulim Chalein Lovan, can you go ahead and sell him a white one afterwards? Mi Amin and Kibin the Yav Shachar B'Shakal, Odin B'Shakal, Lava Vayis Kabai. Right, this is Rashi learns according to Rabbi Yehuda because it's mixed together. Dilma Arumi Kama Arim. Well, maybe he's making a joke. On that, the Gemara says what? Maybe he's making a trick, not a joke. He's making a trick, and now it says Teiku. Rabbi said that what? Rabbi said in the Mishnah, even you can't sell to a goy, you can't sell a dekel toiv, you can't sell a good tree, chatzov and niklas. So let's go ahead and touch up those three things. Let's touch up those three things. Rabbi Oima af dekel tava, Amle Rav Chisda Lavimi, Gemiri the Avodas Kechavim the Avram Avinu, Dalad Meya Pirkahave. You know, Avram Avinu had Masechta Avodas Kechavim. And you know how many prakim there were in that Masechta? 400. Because Avram Avinu lived in the time of Shtark Avodah Zarah. Avram Avinu was, again, the whole world was like Avodah Zarah. He was the first person to go ahead and publish monotheism to the world. So he lived in a time of Avodah Zarah, and there were so many different Avodah Zarahs and halachas of Avodah Zarahs that were prevalent in his time. There were 400 Masechtas of Avodah Zarah, 400 prakim, excuse me. Banan Chemisha Tanan, but our Masechta only has 5. Good. Below Yadina and my Kamrinon, right? And I still don't know. I've met so many, and I have so little, and I still don't know what the din is. I don't know what's flying. Now, my kasha, what was so schwer to Rav Chisda Teravimi? The Tani Remeya. This is the kasha on Remeya. Remeya Omer af dekel toiv kotzav miniklas asalim chalevi kachapim. Dekel toiv hudloy mizavninon. A dekel bish mizavninon. A good tree, a good palm tree, you can't sell. Mashma, a bad palm tree you could sell, but Tanan ain't moichrun lehem b'mechubel karka. You can't sell anything. So even if it's a bad tree, it doesn't produce fruit. Nonetheless, it's mechubel karka. You can't sell it to a guy. Says Rav Chisda to Avimi. This is what's bothering me. I only have 5 prakim and I verstein it. Rav Meir says, "What? You can't sell a bad tree, a good tree, but you could sell a bad tree." It doesn't make any sense because on the other hand we say you can't sell any karka, and in mechubel karka is karka. So Amalei. my dekel toiv, says Rav Dimi to Rav Chisda, my dekel toiv, Paris dekel toiv. It doesn't mean the tree, it means the Paris of the tree. V'chein Rav Huna, Paris dekel toiv. It means that it's the Paris of the tree. Chatzov, what's Chatzov? Is kashpa. Okay, Rashi brings two pshatim. One's type of dates. Another one, it's remember, it's when Gemara Baba Kama, when Yeshua demarcated the land, he had this chatzov tree they would plant and it goes straight down. So you wouldn't steal nutrients from anyone. It went straight down, and it would be demarcate your land. So that's Rashi brings. That's another pshat. Niklas, what is Niklas? Kiyasar of Dimi Amr of Chama by Yosef is Kuryate. So often when the Gemara goes ahead and brings two hard words, it asks like, "What did you gain?" So only a Bible of Dimi. It's not Niklas v'lo yadina mahu. Yad Amr Kuryate v'lo yadina mahu. You know, it's like you ask someone, you ask a yeshiva bacha who looks in an art scroll and he sees an English word and he asks him what it means, and then you answer with another hard English word. What did you gain? Open up Sensino. No, Sensino we don't open up. Says the Gemara, why did you help us by telling us that it's a kriyate? Why did you help us? Amalei. So he told him, Ahani lechu, I helped you, Abaya. If you go to Eretz Yisrael, Amr lehu Niklas, Yoda. Amr lehu kriyati v'yoda. If you tell him Niklas, you won't know what it is. But you tell him kriyati, v'yoda become a chavan. It's the type of plant for kriyate, he'll know it and he'll show it to you.